welcome to the latest with Mooninites special. We are honored to be joined today by Sean Stevens and Zebbler. In the last few days, chat has been barraged with comments about why are we having this show? Why are we giving them screen time? We at TheLatestWith want to give our viewers, you, a chance to ask your questions directly to those who initiated the chaos exactly 4 years ago. So we invite all viewers to pick a screen name, sign into chat, and ask your questions so that we can have a global discussion on the 4th anniversary of the Boston Mooninites incident. 1/31/07. Never forget. Now we'd like to start off this whole by introducing our guests, Sean Stevens and Zebbler. Say hi to everyone out there.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, and so as I said, you can ask questions. We have questions being generated, but one thing I would like to start off with is just give a little intro. We've been seeing your video that you created a few years back from all the news footage, but what is your perception on what happened that day?
Well, I guess it's my turn. So pretty much the simple summary is we were hired by some people who were themselves hired by the Cartoon Network to put up these essentially magnet mount LED things all over the city of Boston as they were put up around the country. And we put them up, and then we put another set up about a week and a half, 2 weeks later. And then I guess some of them drew attention from the authorities, and they didn't know what they were, so they treated them as if they were a bomb. And then basically we, said, no, they're not a bomb. And we called Turner and the people who hired us directly and said, hey, there's this situation going on, and, what should we do? And they said, we'll take care of it. So, we just kind of took them at their word, and we called them back a couple times. And then it took them a really long time to actually get in touch with the Boston authorities.
Right, and meanwhile, there's all sorts of police that were trying to figure out who put it up, and they figured out that, somehow I was involved, and they found me in Arlington. And in my head, I didn't really do anything wrong, so I was just my theory was cooperate and just tell them everything, and everything is gonna be fine. So I was actually the guy who got Sean in trouble. He was about to go and have dinner, and we called him up and we're like, listen, I'm with the police. They want to have a chat with you. Maybe you should stay put. Yeah. So we both got arrested. $100,000 bail got put on our heads, and it sucked for a little while, but now we're back.
Well, I mean, we've been back for pretty much the whole time.
Yeah. Well, minus some community service.
Yeah, I mean, there was like 3 months or so that were a huge pain in the ass. But
yeah, it was pretty hard. Annoying.
Yeah, annoying.
But whatever.
Well, a lot of things have been discussed about what your intent was. A lot of people are like, what if somebody needed to, go to the hospital? What if somebody, was your intent to stall? Like, really, what was your intent when you were putting up these devices around Boston?
Well, I mean, I can speak for my intent. I'm an LED artist myself, and, I like to play with things that light up. And so, making things like that is kind of interesting to me. So I tend to, do it. And when there was this offer to get, paid a little tiny bit of money to go out and, put up a bunch of like LED toys all around the city, that the general idea was people would take these down because they're just like magnetically mounted things. So people would take them home, and, you'd have a little light up toy that, gives a finger to people. And I thought that was cute and harmless. So, I said, why not?
What was my motivation? What?
Yeah, what was your motivation?
What was my motivation? My motivation was, I don't know, I kind of like Cartoon Network. I think they were my biggest motivation. I do a lot of video work, and at the time I was a resident at a club named Roxy in Boston doing visuals there. So I met up with some people in New York who told me about this gig, and they said the Cartoon Network is looking for somebody to promote their show in Boston. Would you be willing to put up these signs in Boston? We'll provide them to you. Yes, Burning 01, I see your question. They were supplied, and yes, they were made in China, FYI. So yeah, they were provided to us. We had to assemble them a little bit with just batteries, tape, and all sorts of other stuff in Boston. and then we put them around the city. And for me, it was literally like a job, but kind of, kind of cool. I enjoyed the fact that it was advertising done guerrilla style and done like LED lights. But at the same time, I never thought that people would literally freak out and think these were bombs, because I guess for me, the society kind of split at that point into two halves, too. One were the people that somehow perceived it as dangerous, and the other were people who just understood it for what it was, which was, LED advertising or LED art, whichever way it read to some people. Yeah, I guess it just reminds me of all sorts of LED stickies or LED throwies that people have developed in New York. Graffiti Research Lab was actually really inspirational behind this project for the people that designed it originally. And there's a huge movement in the art world to just play with the technology that we have available to us right now, to play with LEDs and to just make different things out of them. So for me, this was really obvious, and to Sean Stevens, it was really obvious for what it was. It's just a harmless LED toy. So I never thought the city would freak out to that extent. So when people say, didn't you think of all those people who might have had to go to the hospital that day? I say, what day? They were hanging for like, what?
2 weeks, basically.
2 weeks, 2.5 weeks before anything happened. And for all I know, every other city that they were hanging in United States, and there were a whole lot of dozens of cities that this was done in, nobody freaked out at all. So, it's a job, and it just happened that Boston freaked out, and, sorry.
So you called this LED art. A lot of people claim that this isn't art.
Oh, I didn't call it LED art.
It could be LED.
I said that some people could interpret it as LED art, and some people could interpret it as LED advertising, and it's been interpreted both ways. I didn't state what my interpretation was.
Well, as I was saying, a lot of people don't call it art. So how do we define art, and how would you define art in today's society?
Since this rubbed me the wrong way, I'm going to respond right away. I don't think this is art. I think what Sean Stevens and I did in the press conference after the whole thing was art. I think what art gets co-opted by advertising and big firms to promote something, and as soon as it becomes promotion, it turns into advertising and a commercial venture. So for me, it was a commercial venture that was kind of cool to do, because I like the Cartoon Network, and I happen to like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and I stand behind what those guys represent us with their humor. So I love doing it, but it's still advertising for something, utilizing the art that other people have created. Sean agrees, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the only aspect of it where I can see it really being called art is, sometimes for me, art has this aspect of surprise, where something is out of the ordinary and it kind of like tweaks you a little bit, and you're like, oh, what's going on over there? And for me, again, I don't really think that these were art, but I think that it was artfully done advertising, because it was clever and it was cute, and it had there's this element of surprise, because it's like things that weren't there one day are all of a sudden there and lighting up from behind dark corners. And yeah, so that's my take on it.
Well, I mean, in the last election, there was if everyone remembers, this poster that was made by Shepard Fairey.
Yep.
It was. Would you consider that art, or would you consider that marketing? I know I'm putting on your spot here.
I can talk a lot about it, actually, because I have these debates with people a bunch, because I actually like Shepard Fairey, and I like his art. I like what he does by his art. So the genuine answer that I see to this question is that it's actually both. In this case, it was potentially done as an act of advertising, utilizing the skills that Shepard Fairey has learned while making art, but nevertheless, the image of Obama done in that way has superseded its original intentions because of all the controversy and all of the meaning that was put into the specific poster. The unit that was created ended up being art after all of this. So it started as advertising influenced by art, ended up being art because it's so fucking huge and meaningful and historic at this point. Sorry for swearing.
It's okay.
Okay.
So how do you think that this culture has changed in Boston and the rest of the world? How do you think people approach LEDs, and do you think it's becoming more mainstream, and do you think people are becoming more acceptance of it?
Well, I mean, I think that LEDs are something are rapidly growing in acceptance in the past number of years because we had the change from incandescent light bulbs to compact fluorescent, and now we're starting to move from compact fluorescent to LEDs because compact fluorescents have mercury and things like that in them, and the LEDs don't, and they tend to last much longer and things like that. So you're seeing much more signage and things like that are LEDs, and you're also seeing a lot more like holiday decorations. But it's like, I mean, if you saw a string of LED Christmas lights, are you going to think that that's a bomb? No, it was the fact that these were like unexpected and battery powered and somewhat professional and somewhat handmade because the battery was covered in tape that maybe threw the authorities, and they're just trying to protect people and be cautious, which is fine. And then what happened is the media got wind of it and kind of ran away with it and started sensationalizing the story. And so I mean, when they're talking about when people are saying, well, all the streets that you backed up and stuff like that, I mean, it's that could be blamed just as much on the media because maybe that wouldn't have been such a big deal, and maybe the police had to react to the media's reporting of it, whereas they might have just checked it out and decided it wasn't a threat.
So one question that is here is, did your legal costs get covered by Cartoon Network? Or can you, if you can't answer it, it's okay, but.
Our lawyer fees got mostly covered by Interference Incorporated that has hired us on the behalf of the Cartoon Network. They have otherwise completely disowned us and have not spoken to us since, besides communicating with and through their lawyers. And as far as I'm concerned, we were abandoned to some extent because the whole Turner Network and the Cartoon Network they have paid the city of Boston, a few $1 million?
$2 million.
To get themselves out of it. And, this is pretty much a bribe to say, look, don't sue us. But they left me and Sean out of this deal and said, you guys can feel free to sue them. They're not part of this $2 million settlement, even though we hired them and we are responsible for their actions because we've sent them the instructions for what to do. Leave them out of that package. So I don't know. I feel like, yes, they helped us, but not because they wanted to, because they had to. And they only helped us as much as they had to. They kind of didn't want to deal with us.
And they also were just really, really unresponsive the day it actually happened. I feel like if they could have gotten their act together, instead of taking 6 hours to call the Boston police, because we knew about this at 10 in the morning or something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
It was when we found out, and then Zebbler went to check it out firsthand, and we didn't even know that this had anything to do with us.